So the last time I made a video regarding F1 driver changes, it wasn't even for a 2020 change. It was when Alexander Albon took Pierre Gasly's place at Red Bull, and a lot has happened since then. As a matter of fact, last Thursday we had two 2020 driver announcements in that same day. So I'm going to catch up on all the big 2020 driver announcements in this video. First off, I'll talk about Valtteri Bottas getting re-signed to Mercedes for the 2020 season. Before that announcement, there was about a 50% chance of Bottas getting that seat at Mercedes. His main competition was Esteban Ocon. Many people thought Ocon would get the seat, but Bottas proved them wrong and signed with Mercedes for 2020. I figured Bottas would get re-signed. Just because he hasn't performed to the level of Lewis Hamilton doesn't mean he shouldn't keep his seat. Bottas has been extraordinary this season and is a perfect number 2 driver for that team. And don't worry, Ocon's time will come, eventually, whether it's at Renault or at Mercedes. Now with Valtteri Bottas getting that Mercedes seat, it left Esteban Ocon a free agent once again, or at least we thought, as he signed a deal with Renault for 2020 to take Nico Hülkenberg's spot. A lot of fans were very happy for this, including me. And while it is sad to see Hülkenberg go, I feel like he made the contributions to Renault that he needed to do. Renault was one of the worst teams by 2016, but Nico has definitely helped with their rebuild, and now Renault is competing in the midfield and may be a championship contending team in the near future. If Renault do become a championship team, I don't think Nico would be a good driver to battle for a championship. He seems to be more of a midfield driver, and I think he would get booted quickly compared to Daniel Ricciardo, his Renault teammate. The next thing I'm going to talk about is probably the least surprising of all silly season moves. Sergio Perez and Racing Point announced they would be working together from here to the 2022 season. Now, Perez has been one of the best midfield drivers these past few seasons, and I think most of us had no doubt he would be re-signed. But I find it very interesting that Perez re-signed for 3 years. With Lance Stroll's father owning the team, it's unlikely Stroll will ever be booted from the team, unless he chooses to leave. So Racing Point is basically closing off their doors until 2023. Now I think the real question is, will Sergio be able to keep up his current pace until 2022? In an ever-changing sport like F1, it's likely he could fade and not keep up his regular performance. I think this is one of the hardest things to predict. Will a driver fade, and if so, when will they? So I say we just sit back and see what happens. This next announcement was an interesting one. Romain Grosjean will be driving for Haas in 2020. This was a pretty shocking announcement. Grosjean and Magnussen have had so many collisions this season that I almost had no doubt Grosjean's F1 career would come to an end after this season. But I was wrong. Now, Romain has been with Haas since its beginning in 2016, so the driver in the grid with the most chemistry with Haas is Grosjean, and Romain has shown talent. He has 10 career podiums, which most people seem to overlook. But if he wants to keep his ride past the 2020 season, he has to start consistently outperforming his teammate Kevin Magnussen. Grosjean has the outright pace, but he can't beat Magnussen week in and week out. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is probably the saddest announcement. Robert Kubica announced he would be leaving Williams after the 2019 season. As most of you know, Kubica suffered a rally accident in 2011 where he almost lost his right arm, but miraculously he survived, and as we now know, he is racing today. Kubica has definitely been one of the most inspiring stories in all of sports, but his time in Formula One may be up. While he is currently 19th in points with Williams' only point on the season, he has consistently been the worst driver on the grid, and with young talent like Nicholas Latifi waiting for a seat, it seemed like the inevitable for him to leave. I'm really hoping Kubica can find a seat somewhere for 2020 or further in the future, and if he can't find his place in F1, maybe he can try another motorsport. All these announcements were surprising, but I want to know which one you think was the most surprising. Vote in the poll at the top right of your screen, or put your opinion in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.